Amplify is back. Don't miss the chance to improve every part of your business by connecting with industry experts, hearing best practices from top dealerships, and learning how to optimize your system for profitability at every turn. You don't want to miss the Amplify experience that is designed to help your dealership improve.
Welcome to Daily Drive for Monday, June 9th, 2025. I'm Jamie Butters, Executive Editor of Automotive News in Detroit.
And I'm Kellen Walker in Las Vegas. Today on the show, the impact of tariffs begins as auto shipments plummet. Panic starts to set in over the rare earth mineral shortage. And a major supplier considers Chapter 11. Plus, MIT research scientist Bryan Reimer says companies and regulators need to rethink the way they tackle distracted driving and start to embrace technology as a solution.
Conceptually speaking, I challenge the industry with this thought. If I'm going to eat my cheeseburger, would you rather I do that with level 2 assistance or without?
Let's run through all the news you need to know to keep up in the auto industry.
The number of cars being shipped to the U.S. via sea routes has plunged as a result of President Donald Trump's tariffs on imported vehicles. Maritime import volume for motor vehicles dropped by more than 72% in May compared with the same month a year earlier. That's according to Descartes Datamine, a trade database. The precipitous drop indicates that vehicle tariffs are having a concrete impact on automaker decisions. The 25% auto tariffs that took effect in April may have prompted companies shipping completed automobiles overseas to hold off, betting that Trump will eventually pull back the most punishing duties. The maritime shipping data excludes imports that come across the northern and southern border, but it does capture shipments from Europe and Asia, which are ocean-going.
Auto executives are once again in their war rooms, this time to figure out how to respond to the rare earth mineral shortage from China. Frank Eckard is the CEO of German magnet maker Magnasphere. He tells Reuters, quote, "The whole car industry is in full panic. They are willing to pay any price." Executives worry that the rare earths situation could cascade into the third massive supply chain shock in 5 years. Several European auto supplier plants have already shut down. The region's Auto Supplier Association, CLEPA, says more outages are coming.
There is some good news for U.S. automakers on the mineral shortage. China has granted temporary export licenses to rare earth suppliers of the Detroit 3. That's according to sources familiar with the matter who spoke with Reuters. The sources say at least some of the licenses are valid for 6 months. It wasn't immediately clear what quantity or items are covered by the approval or whether the move signals China is preparing to ease the rare earths licensing process.
And Japanese auto supplier Marelli Corp is considering filing Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection in the U.S. That's according to the Kyoto News Agency, which cited unnamed sources. Marelli is a key supplier to Nissan and Stellantis. It's owned by U.S. private equity firm KKR. Sources say the company is looking into the Chapter 11 option to ensure its business operations won't be halted even if its restructuring talks with creditors fall through. Morelli said in a statement in response to Reuters that it does not comment on market rumors or speculation. And those are today's headlines. So, Jamie, how can auto manufacturers adjust their strategies amid falling shipment volume?
Yeah, it really depends, on each company. We're looking mostly here at the Asian and European brands, the Japanese and Korean brands, particularly. It's trying to ramp up what they can make in the U.S. And if I were them, I'd be raising prices on the vehicles I'm importing. But obviously, they can't bring too many in. They don't want to bring them in at super high prices that they can't really ever cover. So it's, bring in fewer, maybe raise the prices on some of what's on the ground, but they're all very wary of getting out of line with their competitors and sacrificing a lot of market share.
Gotcha. Coming up, MIT research scientist Bryan Reimer says it's time to stop scolding drivers about distracted driving and embrace technology to make roadways safer. That's next on Daily Drive.
The 2025 Automotive Golf Classic is coming up soon, raising funds for the Boys and Girls Clubs of Southeastern Michigan. Players will tee off Monday, June 16th at St. John's Resort in Plymouth, Michigan.
Attendees will get exclusive access to the third annual Automotive News Supplier Panel discussion just prior to tea time at 9 a.m. This year's remarks will feature Paul Thomas, President of Bosch North America, along with Colin Shaw, President of MEMA Original Equipment Suppliers. The executive guests will discuss challenges for suppliers stemming from the current trade landscape, new U.S. tariffs, and other critical issues facing the supply chain.
For more information about this event, reach out to Tiffany Sula at the Boys and Girls Clubs at tsula@bgcsm.org or to Philip Nussel, AGC Executive Chairman at pnussel@crane.com.
Amplify 2025 is right around the corner. Are you ready? Join the industry's leading innovators this August 18th and 19th at the Ritz-Carlton Dallas Las Colinas and be part of the event that will reshape retail automotive. At this 2-day experience, you'll explore new strategies and fresh ideas for driving real growth at your dealership. Choose from 9 hands-on workshops, each designed to deliver practical insights across every department, gain forward-thinking perspectives during our expert-led keynote session, and leave with actionable takeaways to implement right away. And it's not all business. Amplify also gives you the chance to connect with fellow professionals on the greens at TPC Las Colinas, the iconic course that hosted the PGA Tour's Byron Nelson Championship for 35 years. Secure your spot at Amplify 2025 today by visiting rayray.com/amplify. That's rey.com/amplify today.
Welcome back to Daily Drive. I'm Jamie Butters with Kellen Walker. According to the CDC, thousands of people are killed every year in the U.S. and hundreds of thousands are injured in crashes involving a distracted driver. Many states have passed laws to crack down on drivers who aren't paying attention to the road, but the problem persists. MIT research scientist Bryan Reimer says new data suggests penalties for distraction might not be the most effective way to solve the problem. On Shift, a podcast about mobility, he tells our own Pete Bigelow that driver assistance technology might be the answer. Here's a piece of their conversation.
You have some new research out that I'm very curious to hear a little bit about. My top line takeaway, 34% of the time, drivers are doing something other than focusing solely on driving when they're in their vehicle behind the wheel.
So some work led by my colleagues Pinion Gershon and Zach Noonan showing that at the end of the day, when people are in the vehicle, about a third of the time, they're doing something more than listening to the radio that we can see them doing. And whether they're driving with assistance, whether they're driving without assistance, whether they're on the highway or they're off the highway, the 1/3 rule seems to be a good general fat thumb test. When we think about what they're doing, though, a lot of that weighs differently on safety. Sure, some of it's that old-fashioned texting, if we really do send text, or is it Slack or email these days. But the vast majority of the time, the prevalence rate of talking to a passenger is up there at 19%. So, the passenger there comes with 2 eyeballs looking out at the road around them as well. So I think it's a real call out to some work led by my colleagues, really pointing to the fact that, at the end of the day, there's a lot of pros and cons to what we're doing in the car. And it's not so simple to dissect what's good, what's bad, and how non-driving related tasks are being juggled by drivers out there today.
All right. So if I hear you right, you're almost saying not all distraction is bad. In fact, if I'm talking to a passenger within the realm of reason, they're pointing out something on the road that I should be avoiding.
I wouldn't call that distraction. I think you have a co-pilot who's helping you in different ways. We often coin the term distraction quite broadly, but in the reality, we as humans are engaging in a variety of non-driving related tasks, some of which are supportive of safety, passengers at times, some of which are less supportive of safety, having an emotional conversation over the phone, some of which are very clearly not in support of a safe ecosystem, texting into your phone, looking down while you're trying to navigate a busy intersection.
So you mentioned this at the outset a little bit, but what is the interplay between using a driver assist system, let's call it? What is the effect of that on distraction, be that a good distraction or a bad distraction?
So the work, again, led by two of my close colleagues here, is very much suggesting that there are a ton of nuances in here. As the automation gets engaged, whether that's automation system A, B, or C, some things go up and some things go down. And at the end of the day, that fat thumb, about a third of the time, seems to hold over hundreds of hours of driving data. So what we're saying at the end of the day is humans who want to do something are finding a way to do that with or without the assistance. And if I'm going to eat my cheeseburger, I'm probably going to pick up my cheeseburger and eat it anyway. So conceptually speaking, I challenge the industry with this thought. If I'm going to eat my cheeseburger, would you rather I do that with level 2 assistance or without? Sure, the right answer is to not eat my cheeseburger. But if I'm going to do it anyway, how do we help support drivers more effectively over the long haul? Really begin to think more outside of the box of automation in and of itself. How do we reinvent the areas of driver support, attentionally based design, and thinking about how do we support us over the long haul to make better decisions behind the wheel? Better decisions, not pick that cheeseburger up under any circumstance when the traffic's high, snow's coming out of the sky, or it's pouring rain.
Well, I think this is interesting because as whether it's what I'm doing behind the wheel or whether I'm speeding, or whether conceptually someone is out there drunk driving, it seems like an overarching lesson learned in traffic safety, again, be that driver assist systems or beyond, is that controlling driver behavior or telling drivers not to do something, it's kind of failed for dozens of years now at this point.
Yes, it has. We as humans, this is human behavior 101, hate to be told what to do. And the more we put up barriers of telling people what to do without educating the foundations, we're not succeeding here. So I think that one needs to look to the area of supporting drivers in decision-making in real time, but through more of a nudging theory approach than a chastising approach. How do we use the power of positive incentive? Use the carrot more, the stick less. That's not to say that we don't have the same end goal. We do. But dangling benefits out to doing things. As I've shared with you before, while it's a somewhat dated design, Super Cruise, the power of the positive carrot there gets me. We are encouraging more attentive driving or more attention to the road by cueing people to look up. Okay? At the end of the day, that's what we're looking for. Driver being there, collaborating reasonably with the automation. The automation does things the driver can't do. The driver does things the automation can't do. But how do we encourage strategically as opposed to, trying to hit us with a stick and us saying, I don't want to be hit with a stick and moving from there.
How far are automakers along in adopting those sorts of technologies that would be the incentive versus the penalty?
So I think there are a number of automakers out there. We do, under the HEAD consortia, we're working with Honda, JOR, VW Group /Carrot, and Google, with my partners at Touchstone Evaluations, to really look at developing assessment platforms and thinking forward in the area of holistic driver attention support. I know there's a ton of research by various partners out there. I think there are a lot of people thinking about how do we use the power of motivating and supporting drivers more effectively. I think the reason it's taken so long is we've been, quite frankly, as an industry, distracted. We've been distracted by this allure of highly automated driving. While promising, and perhaps over the next century or so, something that we can actually ubiquitously provide to the masses beyond where we see robotaxi deployments today. But I think our investments in highly automated driving have curtailed a lot of those decision processes away from the fact that we are going to continue to drive the vast majority of the miles traveled in the U.S., likely much of the industrial world, for the foreseeable future. That's not to say that automation is not going to work in microcosms. We can talk about the economics of that separately. But okay, let's stop focusing on automating the world and start focusing on joint collaborative systems and human-centered design.
One of the things that I think has been interesting to watch in the auto industry is we've seen a number of automakers shelve their efforts to start robotaxi companies or deploy robotaxis, and they pivot to, we're going to work on highly automated driving instead. And I think, exactly to your point here, they have not yet kind of conceptualized that there's just as many complications on the driver assist or highly automated driving side of things. And I guess we could split that saying level 2 or level 3 as there are on the let's cut out the human role entirely and focus on automation. That's one problem is not easier here. They are both very complex problems.
So even if you go back to where Google was in their self-driving car program roughly 15 years ago, they had talked about publicly several times they had 2 paths to follow. Path 1, driver assistance bottom up. Path 2, highly automated top down. And they took the problem that they thought was a bigger, better societal problem over the long haul, knowing that both were, incredibly difficult. My worries about the highly automated technologies on the level 4 world today is the economics of robotaxis just don't make sense to me. It's not that the technology can't work at scale. It's just, can you actually produce a revenue in and above the cost of operating, developing, continuing to invest in the life cycle costs of these software stacks. So I'm, very high on level 4 autonomy over the long haul. I am not so high that our current efforts, be they level 4 trucking or level 4 robotaxi, have economics behind them right now. The technology investment that piques my interest is, probably several decades away, but level 4 highway assist. I'm willing to pay a subscription model for a system that allows me to do a few other things on the highway. Now, GM's comments that they see $1 billion a year revenue stream through Super Cruise tell me that, the possibility of further providing relief to the operational workload on highways in exchange for a subscription service has potential market viability. Lower sensor requirements, geofence to the highway, all the, safest place we drive to start with, lots of pieces that we don't have to worry about, lots of complexities we do have to worry about. But you don't have to worry about pedestrians jumping out from between cars on highways to the same degree. So to me, I think there's a number of automakers that have talked publicly around this. To me, I think we're finally starting to think about how do we build from the bottom up towards a highly automated feature that I'll pay for. And I think many will as well.
Bryan Reimer is a research scientist with MIT. You can hear his full conversation with our own Pete Bigelow on Shift, a podcast about mobility. That's available now wherever you get your podcasts. That's Daily Drive for today. I'm Jamie Butters.
And I'm Kellen Walker. Thanks to Automotive News executive producer Jake Neer, as well as our own Molly Boygon for her reporting for today's podcast. You can get the latest news on driver assist technology, tariffs, and everything happening in the auto industry at autonews.com.
We'd love to hear from you. Let us know what you think of the show and the topics we covered today. Send us an email at dailydrive@autonews.com or leave us a voicemail at 313-444-2774. And if you enjoy the podcast, remember to like, leave a review, and subscribe so you never miss an episode.